"You're so desperate to settle down," she said, canceling our wedding a week before the date to go find herself. I gave all her stuff to charity. She just came back, heartbroken and pregnant, from a fling, and wants me to be the father. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The week before the wedding was supposed to be a blur of nervous excitement. Instead, it was a slow-motion car crash. We were sitting in the living room of our two-bedroom apartment, a space I'd spent the last 4 years building a life in. A life with her. We had the final seating chart printout spread across the coffee table, a testament to how close we were. The wedding was Friday. It was Sunday. "I just can't do this, Mark." Emily said the words so casually, as if she were canceling a dinner reservation. The sound of her voice made the small hairs on my arms stand up. I looked up from the seating chart, my mind still trying to put my great-aunt Mildred next to my college roommate, Dave, a combination I was sure would end in either an epic friendship or a restraining order. "Do what, babe? You don't like the flower arrangement?" I asked, a laugh still in my throat. "We'd been arguing about peonies versus dahlias all week." She sighed, a long, weary exhalation that was just a little too theatrical. "No, the wedding. Us. The whole thing." The blood drained from my face. My hands, which had been holding a red pen, trembled slightly. I put it down on the table, the small click echoing in the sudden silence. I thought this was some kind of elaborate, sick joke. A prank. She'd always been a bit dramatic. "What are you talking about, Emily? The invitations are out. The venue is paid for. My parents are flying in from out of state on Wednesday." "I know," she said, her voice a little softer, but still completely devoid of real emotion. I'm not ready for a life with a picket fence and a 9 to 5. My jaw clenched. A few years ago, when she was struggling to find a job after college, I'd picked up a second gig to cover her half of the rent. I'd cooked every dinner, paid for every date, and done everything in my power to give her the space and time to find herself and figure out her passions. When she'd finally landed a job as a graphic designer, it was a huge relief, but she still saw my steady, stable career as boring. "A picket fence? A 9 to 5? I repeated, my voice dangerously low. "You mean a home and a stable life, Emily? Is that what you're calling it now? Because that's what we both wanted. That's what we've been building for 5 years." She stood up and walked to the window, avoiding my gaze. "I'm just not you. You're so desperate to settle down. You've been ready for this since we first started dating. I need to travel, to experience things, to live." The word desperate felt like a physical blow. It was her dismissal of everything I'd done, everything I'd planned, all of my love and commitment, boiled down to a pathetic character flaw. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice flat. "You're leaving?" A week before our wedding. She finally turned to look at me, a cruel, smug expression on her face. "I'm just not in love with you anymore. I'm sorry. I just can't be held back by someone who wants to play it so safe." I stared at her, feeling my heart crack. The woman I had committed my life to, the woman who was supposed to be my future, was standing in our living room, telling me I was too committed, too loving, too safe. I saw the packed duffel bag sitting by the front door. She had it all planned out. She was so smug about her escape, about her newfound freedom. A wave of pure, unfiltered shock and pain washed over me. I wanted to yell. I wanted to beg. I wanted to demand answers, to ask if there was someone else, if this was just a passing phase. But as I opened my mouth, no words came out. I just stared at her. The beautiful, treacherous woman who had just ripped my world apart. "Okay," was all I could manage to say. It was a single, hollow word. She gave a small, relieved smile. "I'll pack the rest of my stuff later. Don't worry about anything. I'll get it all taken care of." But her words didn't land. All I could think about was my quiet, dignified exit. I stood up, walked to our bedroom, and came back with my keys and my wallet. I looked at the seating chart, the symbol of everything that was now gone, and then I looked at Emily, a stranger in my home. I simply turned, opened the front door, and walked away. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even get in my car right away. I just walked, the late afternoon sun warm on my skin. I walked until I found a park bench and sat down. I pulled out my phone, went to my contacts, and scrolled to her name. Emily. The tiny picture of her smiling face, taken a year ago at the beach, felt like a punch to the gut. I hovered over the block button, then closed my phone. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. She wanted drama. I was going to give her silence. For 2 days, I lived out of a suitcase in a friend's spare room. I didn't tell him why I was there, only that I needed a place to crash for a while. He was an old college buddy, a man who understood when to ask questions and when to just let it be. He didn't ask. I spent those days canceling the catering, the photographer, the DJ. Each phone call was a new, cold reminder of what was gone. I told them there had been a change of plans, and they all offered their sympathies, which felt like salt in an open wound. When I finally went back to the apartment, she was gone. She hadn't even bothered to pack all her things, just the essentials. Her designer clothes were missing, but the ugly sweaters she'd had since high school were still there. Her expensive shoes were gone, but the pair of beat-up old sneakers were still by the door. It was a clear message. She'd only taken the things she thought were valuable and left the rest for me to deal with. A strange calm settled over me. There was no anger, just a quiet sense of finality. I went through her closet and her dresser, pulling out everything she had left behind. Her old books, her cheap jewelry, her family photos. I put it all in trash bags, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. Instead, I drove to the local Goodwill. As I pulled up to the donation door, a volunteer, a kind, older woman, came out to help me. "Looks like a lot of stuff," she said, smiling gently. "Spring cleaning? Something like that," I said, a hollow smile on my face. "Just clearing out the past." I spent the next few weeks in a fog. The silence in the apartment was deafening. My friends tried to reach out, but I kept my distance. I wasn't ready to talk about it, not with the hurt still so fresh and raw. I needed to be alone. I needed to rebuild myself before I could face anyone else. I started looking at real estate listings. Not for a new apartment, but for a house. A real house. A place to start over from scratch, on my own terms. I found a small, neglected bungalow just outside the city. It had a big yard, a beautiful old oak tree in the front, and a lot of problems. I put a down payment on it with the money I had saved for the wedding. It was a tangible, defiant act of reclaiming my future. I began renovating it myself. The physical labor was a welcome distraction. I tore down old drywall, ripped up linoleum, and sanded down ancient wooden floors. Every swing of the hammer, every coat of paint, was a small, satisfying step toward building something new. I was no longer a man defined by a broken engagement. I was a man building his own house, his own life. The apartment was still a ghost, but the bungalow was slowly becoming a home. I didn't think about Emily. I didn't want to know where she was or who she was with. Her chapter of my life was closed, the book donated to charity. I was a man who had lost everything, but I was also a man who had been given an empty canvas. I was ready to paint. A year passed. My life was almost unrecognizable, and I loved every minute of it. The bungalow was now a home. The peeling paint was gone, replaced by a deep gray that made the white trim pop. The floors gleamed. The yard was filled with the flowers I had always wanted to plant, a vibrant, chaotic mess of color and life. It was mine entirely. My days were a satisfying rhythm of work, renovation, and peace. The pain of the breakup had dulled into a quiet memory, a lesson learned. One Tuesday, while I was sitting on my newly built back deck, enjoying a beer, a text message came in from an unknown number. "Hey Mark, how have you been?" I stared at the words, a chill running down my spine. The way she wrote it, tentative, familiar, but from a number I didn't know, could only mean one person. I didn't respond. I just deleted the message and blocked the number. I wasn't going to let her back in. A few weeks later, another text came through from a different number. This one was more desperate. "Mark, please don't ignore me. I know I messed up. Can we talk?" Again, I deleted it. Then, a few days after that, a call came from her mom. I hadn't spoken to her in a year, and her voice was a little strained. "Mark, honey, it's Susan. Emily is going through a hard time. She could really use a friend right now. She's so lost." I felt a surge of anger, not at her, but at the audacity of it all. I had to choose my words carefully. "Susan, I wish you all the best, but Emily and I haven't spoken in a year. We're not friends. I've moved on. But Mark, she's got some news for you. She's not doing so well. Things didn't go as planned. That's her responsibility, not mine," I said, my voice firm. "I wish you both well, but I can't be a part of her life. Goodbye, Susan." I hung up and blocked her number, too. They were all toxic, just in different ways. Then came the final, gut-punch text from yet another number. It was just a picture, a grainy sonogram image. Below it, 2 words, I'm pregnant. A second text followed immediately. He left me. He said he wasn't ready to settle down, just like I was. Mark, please, I need you. I know you're the only one who can be a good father. I was wrong. Let's make this right. There it was. The grand, ironic, karmic justice of it all. The man she'd left me for, the one who was supposed to give her an exciting, adventurous life, had discarded her just as she had discarded me. And now she was turning to the man she'd called desperate to settle down, to clean up her mess. She wanted me to step in and be a father to a child that wasn't mine. I didn't respond. The silence was the only answer she deserved. 3 weeks passed in silence. I didn't hear from her again. I was enjoying a peaceful Sunday morning, sitting in my living room with my new dog, a goofy golden retriever puppy named Cooper, when I heard a knock on the door. It was a firm, but hesitant knock, not the kind of knock a delivery driver makes. I opened the door and saw her. Emily. She looked tired, her eyes red-rimmed, and her clothes were a little disheveled. She was obviously pregnant, a small but noticeable bump beneath her coat. She stood on my porch, a nervous smile on her face, but her eyes held a desperate, needy look. Her gaze swept past me to the interior of my home, the custom bookshelves I had built, the warm glow of the fireplace, the new wooden floors. Her eyes widened, a flicker of shock and regret crossing her face. Mark, she said, her voice thin. I can't believe it. This place looks amazing. Is this yours? I nodded once. What do you want, Emily? She took a step forward, as if to come inside, but I didn't move. I kept the door half closed, a clear barrier between us. I came to talk to you. You didn't respond to my texts. No, I didn't, I said, my voice flat. I thought my silence was pretty clear. She started to cry, real tears this time. I know. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. About everything. He just left. He told me he wasn't ready to be a dad, and he just disappeared. I was so stupid. He wasn't a real man like you. A real man who you left a week before our wedding, I said, a flicker of amusement in my voice. A man who was desperate to settle down. That was your exact quote, wasn't it? Her face crumpled. I was an idiot. I was selfish and I didn't know what I had. But I'm back now. And I need you, Mark. I need you to be the father this baby deserves. You've always wanted to settle down. This is our second chance. She tried to appeal to my past self, the man she knew, the man who had been a devoted partner, the man who would have been thrilled at the thought of a family. But that man was gone. He was still me, but he had evolved. He was no longer the guy who would fix someone else's mess. Emily, listen to me, I said, my voice quiet, but firm. I didn't show anger or sympathy, just a kind of detached finality. That part of my life is over. I've moved on. You left me because you didn't want the life I was building. So I built one for myself alone. And it's better than I ever could have imagined. I have my own home, a great dog, and peace. You're a part of my past, and you're not a part of my future. I don't need you, and I certainly don't need the consequences of your exciting life. I'm happy for the first time in a long time. I won't apologize for that. I looked at her, and she finally saw it. The complete, total emotional distance. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. She was simply a stranger on my porch, holding a past I had long since discarded. Goodbye, Emily, I said softly, and without another word, I closed the door. I locked it, a final, definitive click. Cooper came over and nudged my hand, wanting a pat. I knelt down and scratched his ear. Life was good. It was so good. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.